Hey everyone, I don't know if you've ever heard this quote, but they say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I would imagine our friend GoGo here agrees with that. Now GoGo is an Opus 15 card that was very exciting, and just what a neat card, inspired a lot of build-around ideas, and unfortunately I just never really got around to playing it. I don't remember if I just didn't have the GoGo cards, or I didn't want to sleeve it up. I don't know, YYT had some really good ideas. I saw a lot of fun stuff, but I was looking at this brand new Opus 16 Terra we got, and I started getting some ideas. So this is a GoGo Terra action deck. So this, if you don't know what GoGo does, basically once per turn, for the first time in the turn, when a forward or monster you control uses an action ability, GoGo will copy that ability for free. You don't have to pay the cost again, he'll just do whatever the ability says. So then we got this brand new Terra that, he also technically has a special, but again, don't use that a whole lot. So then we have this Terra, which says the Category 6 backups you control can produce CP of any element. Well, she's in Earth, and there aren't really a whole lot of 6 cards in Earth, so I was like, well, I mean, that's kind of nice, but you still got to get her out, right? So what are her effects? You can pay a fire until the end of the turn. She gains 2,000 power and haste. You can pay an ice, choose a character, freeze it. Pay a water, choose a character, dull it. And then you can pay one of each and dull Terra, choose a forward, break it. Now, again, sounds kind of tough, right? Now, if you're in Title, she sounds great, but in Standard, well, I don't know. How good is that? Well, I'll tell you what. When you get it a second time for free, it's awesome. These two alone are the cornerstone of the deck. So what you can do, let's say you get GoGo and Terra out there. You leave 2 backups, and this is just some of the simpler stuff you can do. On your turn, you spend one of those backups for water CP, and again, there's going to be plenty of 6 and color fixing in here, so you're going to the colors won't be an issue. So you say, Terra's going to say, choose a character, dull it. You know, you dull one of their forwards, GoGo copies that, you dull a second forward. Now they can both swing in for damage. Now on their turn, you still have that one backup up, right? They go to combat phase, you dull your single backup, Terra, dull a character, so you dull one of their forwards, GoGo copies that, dulls another one. I remember one time someone was using the new Ramza, paid their crystals, or getting ready to have this big attack, and I said, okay, pay a single one, dull Ramza, and then dull that backup you were planning to use in main phase 2. Really screwed them over. Same with the freeze. You can dull a single one, freeze 2 things on their turn. Okay, main phase 1, I'm going to put this thing out. While your backups are dull, pay a single one, freeze both of them. If they've got 2 forwards you got to worry about. The break is the most expensive, of course, but again, you can use Terra, break that one, GoGo's going to copy that, break as well. It's really fun. It's really potent. I don't know how necessarily competitively viable it is, because people will see that and be like, I'm not going to allow that. These two are going to have a big target on their back, but that's okay. We're going to try to keep them alive as best we can. So, first off, Terra's great, but let me show you some of the other action abilities we can copy with GoGo as well. We have Luminous Puma. So when Luminous Puma enters a field, you'll get to choose a forward in your break zone, get it back, but then at any time you can break Luminous Puma, put it in the break zone to get a forward or backup. GoGo will copy that effect, so you'll basically get to get 2 cards out of your break zone. Feels very nice. Biblos, I don't copy as often because Biblos has to be attacking, but Biblos will turn itself into a 7,000 power forward, which GoGo is, so he doesn't lose any power off of that. And then when he attacks, he forces a discard. And when he forces a discard, he then gets to dull freeze a forward. So GoGo will copy that, and GoGo will discard on attack as well. Speaking of discard, if you haven't tried GoGo with the flans, you are missing out. Having a single flan dull itself, break, make them discard a card, GoGo copies that. They discard 2 for the price of 1 flan, feels excellent. It's one of my favorite things to copy, especially if Terra's not out there. A new one I wanted to try, and I've kind of had mixed results with this, so you can very much, this is probably one you could cut if you wanted to. But Leonis, he's got an action ability that the next damage he's dealt during this turn by a summoner ability gets reduced to 0. And now, I've just, through whatever means, not drawn them together or whatever, or maybe I'd rather spend on the Terra, I haven't used that a whole lot, but again, let's say they try to Amaterasu the GoGo, or they, hit it with a Blaze or a Bahamut or something. And if Leonis is on the field, you can copy his effect to protect GoGo for that turn, for the next ability, which is really nice. And his special is very good, so when he attacks, you can pitch the other copy of Leonis to deal 9,000 damage to 2 forwards. And GoGo can copy that with his Mimic ability, so then, in theory, you could deal 9,000 to 4 forwards if that lines up. The last one, and arguably one of the best ones, is Gentiana. Gentiana with Terra and GoGo feels very oppressive and has won me a couple games from the brink. Games I probably shouldn't have won, but these three just pulled me back. So now, anytime you dull something with Gentiana, GoGo will copy it. So 2 dulls, very similar to Terra, right? Then Gentiana says the dull forwards opponent controls have no abilities, and that doesn't create a stack when they become, like, obviously it'll create the stack if you use the dull ability, but if their forwards just become dull, there's no window there where they get to go, okay, hold on, before it loses its ability. No, the moment it's dull, its abilities are just gone. So I've really held on for some games that I shouldn't have been able to with these three. So here's the core of it. Let's show you some 6 backups we can have fun with. Castilian Empire Sid searches you out a 6 forward. Usually I'm going to grab GoGo. If I've already got GoGo, maybe I'll grab Terra. Setzer as well. He's going to pull back a 6 forward from our break zone. Again, these two are going to have a huge target on them, so you want ways to be able to get them back. A single copy of Lock. This lets us search out another backup, and because we're only running 1 Lock, we won't run into others. Or if you feel good with your backups, you can pull out a monster. Guarantee that you pull out one of these guys. Or forward if you really want to. 3 copies of Tyro. Still one of the better Earth backups in the game. On a burst, we'll grab you any of your forwards, so on entry, he's another way to search out your key pieces. And he can color tap. 2 copies of Shantoto. This deck is a little slower. You want to get built up. You want to get these backups out so that Terra and GoGo can start abusing them. So if you're getting rushed early, drop that Shantoto on him. And then finally, just a copy of Chaos, because he's a great one to see early and he color fixes. So again, if any of these backups are out, then you can use any of Terra's abilities, because as long as she's on the... I mean, these 3 are going to give you any color you want anyway, but then if she's on the field, these 3 also produce any color. Quite nice. Going with the 6 theme, 2 copies of Celeste. Usually what I will use Celeste for is turn 1. If I had a bad hand, I didn't see a backup, I did see Celeste, just drop Celeste turn 1, go fetch out your Lock. Now, out of a hand that had no backups, you can now guarantee produce 2, which feels very good. Otherwise, if you've already got the Lock, this is the only target for that, so just make them discard otherwise. Technically, if you party attack, you can either freeze characters or you can get back a 6 character from your break zone, so she is a way to recycle these if needed. I've never really had that come up in practice, but it's there in theory. Speaking with kind of a recursion theme, because again, we want to get GoGo and Terra as much as possible, 3 copies of Kusith. That can also get us spare backups just for CP. Can be good if you threw out a Shantoto early and then you need it later. Cactar, I've been experimenting with, is just a nice clean summon that, again, if they've got a threatening forward that maybe your effects aren't going to be able to deal with. Let's say they've got like Kieran. Kieran says, I can't be dull and frozen, and that's a big part of what these guys do. You have Cactar to just break it outright, say, nope, get out of here. Kadaj, still one of the best dark cards in the game. I think very slept on. Everything it does is great. Removing their break zone is excellent. Giving GoGo or Terra 2k and Brave is very nice, especially on Terra. She can attack, and then you could still threaten that dull break effect with her. And he's just a very sticky forward that's difficult to get rid of. 2 copies of White Tiger Lucy Nimbus. He's one that I always want to go up to 3 copies because he's so good. For 3 CP, he will help you win the game, stall the game, because he can cut off their key backup, their key forward, their key monster even, whatever he needs to do. The only problem is that he has to be played off of backups. There's no way to cheat him in this deck, so if you see him too early, he's kind of a dead card in your hand. So that's kind of the only thing that's kept me from going to 3 copies, but if you're feeling luckier, feel free to go with it. 2 copies of the card that's taken every ice deck by storm, Lastwell, my spoiler, so I have extra affinity for it, but just a generically good card that we have some knights here I'm going to show you, but you don't even need the knight support. Just come in, you're happy to play this turn 1, especially if you're going second, if they play a single backup. Immediately freeze that backup, and then you're saying, if you don't do something about this, I'm going to start chipping away at your hand as well. So he's just generic good ice card. Same with Charlotte. She's a knight. She'll feed into Lastwell's trigger, and then she can help protect your GoGo and Terra as well. 2 copies of Delita. He's color fixing, which I really like, and he is a knight, so if you put out Lastwell and then follow up with Delita, now you've got another dull freeze, now you've got another thing you can threaten to break, and then he gets you a character back of 2 or less from your break zone. This is really good with the Flans or Biblios. So what I've done sometimes is crack a Flan, GoGo copies it, they've discarded 2 cards, Delita, play the Flan, get the Flan back out there, use it to search out the other Flans, whatever. So that's a very good target for him. Or you could get back 2 copies of Aerith. Again, if you saw my Black Mage video, I kind of talked about this there, but protecting GoGo, especially from Amaterasu, is very important, because they can Amaterasu when he goes to copy an ability. So Aerith, putting him 2,000 more out of that is quite potent, that they now have to spend some other resource to combine with that Amaterasu to finish GoGo off. Not to mention she can just be sticky on her own as well, so I didn't think much of this card when I first saw it, but I really rate it when you have a key for it. And again, I always bring up the Amaterasu, but that really that's the key thing that you're worried about. You know, because if they have straight break or whatever, she's not going to do anything about that. But if you have damage-based removal, that is what you're worried about, and she helps you with that. 2 copies of Mira, going in a bit with our recursion theme. When she enters, you will get back a monster equal to the number of damage you've taken. Now, originally, without the flans, I actually find her a little underwhelming. I thought she was going to be great, because you're thinking, oh, damage 5, bring in Luminous Puma for free right to the field. Feels amazing, absolutely. But in practice, it just doesn't work out that way. Either I draw her so early there's nothing to do with her, or I just don't see her late enough to line up with the Puma. But with the flans, you're very likely to go to 1 damage, especially if you have a Cactar. This deck's slower anyway, so it is nice to have something to recur the flans, because those flans with the GoGo, I mean, you're just going to brutalize their hand if you can keep on that. A little more recursion element is Sidwaff. He will get back a monster of 2 or less, play it right to the field. Again, flans are probably your main target, but if you lose Biblos, he can pull that back as well. Scholar, I like this because it's a cheap backup you can put down early on turn 1, and then it can get you back an ice forward of 3 or less later in the game. Again, GoGo. They're gonna get rid of GoGo, so you can pull him back. You can pull back the Tiger if you need to, or Lastwell. If you need that Dull Freeze to close the game out, you can break the Scholar for that. And finally, a little extra protection, 1 copy of Lael. It's just a cheap backup to put down early, and again, can cancel a summon, can cancel that Amaterasu, or whatever is going to threaten your GoGo. So, here's the deck. I really enjoyed playing around with it. It's definitely slower, and there are times that it feels like you're trying to assemble a bunch of pieces to get this Terra to go off, so there are times it can definitely feel clunky. However, I think it can also be really fun, and once you get it going, I do think the reward is worth the investment you put into it, and you do get a really good payoff. And again, it feels like your hard work has amounted to something, so I do really appreciate that. Let me know what you think. Are there any action abilities that I have left out of this that you think should be in there as well? I combed the list of most of the cards. I couldn't find anything else that really stood out to me, but you know, let me know if you find something that I didn't think of. And yeah, if you have any other builds for our Terra, this is simpler with like Ice Earth. I wonder if people would try to put her in things with fire and water and really spread it out with the other 6 characters, because 6 covers quite a few elements. So let me know what you think. Deck list will be in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching. Bye!